Number one in 2021, number one in 2022. Recruiting and on the field. It all is good right now for Georgia football. We got Savannah Lee Richardson on the line from Dawn of the Dog on Fansided. Join her work right there covering Georgia football. Hey, Savannah.
How's it going, Mark?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm happy it's a bye week because we've been, pumping out content, but this week hasn't slowed down at all. Just bye week. We're supposed to be able to rest and stuff, but not when you're the number one team in the nation.
Yeah, so everything's rolling, everything's good. And of course, the big game against Florida, which has decided the SEC Eastern Division the last few years. I don't know how competitive that's going to be, but we can talk about that in just a second. But first and foremost, we do have a couple big-time commits just in the last couple of days, couple defensive linemen. Bear Alexander and Michael Williams in the fold.
Oh, yeah, these two guys are big-time prospects. Rivals has them both as 5 stars, but 247 has Bear as a high-ranking 4-star. And it wouldn't surprise me by the end of the season to see him switch if he continues to play as well as he is. But these are two players that Georgia needs to continue to build depth on this defensive front seven that has gotten to be so elite. Jordan Davis is leaving. Devontae Wyatt is leaving. And these are two guys that have similar size that can kind of come in and hopefully play a little early next season. Mikhail will be more on the defensive end, whereas Bear will be kind of like another Jalen Carter. And so that was a big flip for Mikhail because, as much of as an unkept secret as it was after him coming for his official visit and everything, still getting that flip after the 5-star Luther Burden chose Missouri over Georgia was kind of a really strategic move on Kirby Smart's part, and I think that's something that he continues to do. But I love that because even though Luther, took those headlines and everything, he's like, hold my water. We're gonna do this and we're gonna do it big. But to have Bear come in the next day and recommit to Georgia, because he was a commit a few months ago and he decided to decommit and open up again, but then all of a sudden he wants to be back on this 2022 class, and I don't blame him because it's starting to be kind of like a 2018, I believe, is the one that was so, I think 7 or 8 5-stars, and but it's exciting. Kirby Smart's driving that 5-star train, and there's no stopping it right now.
Bear Alexander in the last 2 months had a couple trips to Texas A&M, a couple trips to Georgia, so it was pretty obvious he was down to those two. Mm-hmm. And Mark, it's Mikel, not Michael. I didn't know. Mikel. Okay, Mikel.
Either I say Mikel. It may be Michael. Hopefully it's one of these days it'll come out and say it. But he's one of those. It seems like Mikel to me, but that's just how I'm choosing to pronounce.
Either way, we will find out soon. Both roughly top 5 defensive linemen, top 50 players in the country. Okay. Back to 2021. So everything's rolling. Everything's good. They hit the bye week at 7-0, 5 games to go. Florida would appear to be the toughest draw. Tennessee's playing better, though, recently. But it's Florida up next. We know all about that one. Whatever we're allowed to call it these days, the largest outdoor cocktail party. That's what it is. That's what everybody remembers and knows and loves. So this comment that was made by Kirby Smart this week, because of course Stetson Bennett's getting more playing time. JT Daniels hasn't been fully ready to go. Most would consider JT Daniels the starter. He is the starter. He's been the starter when he's healthy. And but Kirby Smart made a comment this week just in regards to needing both of them.
Yeah, honestly, like if you're asking, if I can give my personal opinion before I kind of break it into it, I think he does this kind of thing to just give somebody something to talk about. Because, I mean, situationally, you can use Stetson with his legs. And then if you want to use the long ball, both of them are still accurate enough to do so. But I think Kirby Smart decided to do this because he wanted to give him something else to talk about. And, it is something to talk about because everybody's like, 2 quarterbacks. How can you use 2 quarterbacks? And to be honest, like you can in situations. And even though Stetson has played as well as he has, I think we talked about this before. He knows that like when JT Daniels is healthy, that is his offense and he runs the offense and he is the starter. And even though Stetson continues to play well and and beat teams and do what he's supposed to do. I think he understands that when the time comes and JT gets healthy, it's going to be handed over to JT. But I do think that Kirby could be smart enough to utilize two quarterbacks now after, the whole Justin Fields, Jake Fromm kind of thing. People always talked about you could use Justin in short third down situations or goal line situations. And I think that's something that you can do with Stetson too, because he has the added element of being able to use his legs. And so I'm going to be really interested to see. Maybe even Kirby is kind of throwing a slight dig at Dan Mullen for having to use two quarterbacks throughout this entire season, whereas Kirby's quarterbacks have combined for 4 interceptions and Florida's are double digits, I believe. And so who knows? But it stirred the pot a little bit yesterday, and Georgia fans are like, no quarterback controversy. And I still stand by that there isn't a quarterback controversy. I just think that he's being smart about it instead of being so hard-headed and using just one guy.
Yeah, if both guys were being used and JT Daniels was healthy, that would be a different story.
Well, I mean, whenever he was in the South Carolina game, he did his thing and then came out and let Stetson do his thing. But JT wasn't 100% either, though. Yeah.
All right. Kendall Milton, really good running back. Obviously, they've been playing 4. They're loaded in the backfield, so it's one of these situations where you know something, but you don't really know what's going on. We know that he got nicked up in practice, but that's about all we know at this point.
Yeah, there's something happened yesterday with him in practice, and a bunch of the reports and everything mentioned that he's going to be out for a few weeks, and that kind of disturbed a little bit of the Georgia fans. But like you said, you're using 4, and Kenny McIntosh is also somebody that's kind of battling an injury with his hamstring. He could be back, he could not. They're kind of hit or miss, and that's kind of been the trend all season with Georgia. Is they've had a ton of injuries, but yet next dog up, next guy comes in and instead of falling flat, they've really stepped up and done the right thing and played well. Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers. But going back to the running backs, you have Zamir White and James Cook, who are the 2 leading running backs for Georgia, and they're running really, really confidently, probably better than any of the other guys on the team in the last couple of games. So I don't think Georgia fans need to worry too much about Kendall Milton. It sucks that he did get hurt in practice, but hopefully the timeline of the possible return is more precautionary than it is set in stone. But Kirby hasn't really mentioned anything, and we won't probably hear from him until Monday. So